Welcome to Thrive, How to Drive Small Business Success, a podcast from Capterra focused on providing small and mid-sized business leaders with ideas, actionable insights, and technology recommendations to help their businesses thrive. I'm Brian Westfall, Principal HR Analyst at Capterra and your host for today's episode. In part 2 of our series on how to build an engaged workforce, today we're talking about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, also known as emotional quotient, or EQ for short, is a soft skill on the rise. In a recent Capterra survey, 78% of project managers reported using it more than ever in the past 2 years. Why is EQ having a moment? And how can high EQ managers improve not only employee engagement, but overall project success? To find out, I'm joined by Capterra's Principal Project Management Analyst, Olivia Montgomery. Olivia's research has been featured in the likes of Forbes, Tech Republic, and CIO Dive. Her latest report, Emotional Intelligence Leads to Project Management Success, is full of EQ insights and recommendations based on a survey of over 500 project managers. Thanks for joining us today, Olivia.
Thanks, Brian. I'm excited to be here.
So, emotional intelligence, it's kind of having a moment. It's in a lot of books. There's a lot of articles out there. From the research that you've been doing, what is your definition of EQ?
Yeah, so we went with the current industry standard that emotional intelligence is one's ability to perceive, identify, manage your own emotions and those of others. And it's that and those of others and the management that is really key.
So it's not just being in control of your own emotions, but also having an understanding of others as well. I think that might be kind of a misconception about EQ out there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's not even only just knowing your feelings, how you're feeling that day, how other people's days going. It's a lot more than that. It's how to use those feelings to influence the tasks that are at hand, your workload, the time that you work, how you're defining success. You're using all of that to influence the team, influence the work, and help improve, job satisfaction too.
Yeah, I mean, EQ is so important, and it's especially important for project managers, which is the area of focus of your research. So I wanted to ask you, why did you focus on project managers and ask them about EQ?
Yeah, so project managers are in a very unique position in that they are people managers, but they don't have direct reports. Typically, their project team members have functional jobs outside of just that project. So they don't have quite the leverage and authority over who's on their team. So they have to be influential. They have to be persuasive. They have to bring out the best and really engage teams in a way that, your direct supervisor might not have to. It's definitely one of the only jobs in a business that is right at the crux of getting work done with lots of different people. You have all different kind of business types and job functions coming together, and you have to be able to manage and get project success out of that.
Yeah, and it's obviously such a complicated job. So in your research, did you find, our PMs, do they have high EQ? Do they have low EQ?
Yeah, so I asked in my survey on a scale, asked them to rate themselves on a 1 to 5, 5 being the highest EQ that they think they could achieve and 1 being the lowest. I asked them to rate themselves, their peers, even their own bosses, and 60% of project managers gave themselves either a 4 or a 5.
Oh wow.
And I think it attracts people who are high EQ because you're rewarded pretty quickly. Like I just said, with you have to be influential and persuasive to be a strong project manager. So I think people with a high EQ are just attracted to that profession already.
Do you think that's, if I were taking a survey like that, I would obviously, I have really high EQ. I'm great at my job, but what did the research show how they feel about other project managers or their peers or their boss?
Yeah, that's exactly why I asked about it, because I would probably be the same. I'd be like, I'm a 5.
Right. It's like, yeah, I'm great. I don't need to improve at all.
I'm done. No, they actually rated their bosses even higher.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And their peers at 61%. So it was like right in there with how they rate themselves and their peers and colleagues.
Okay, great. So obviously EQ is super important, but what does it look like? What are the kind of traits that a high EQ manager has?
Yeah. So this is definitely high EQ is something that can have a lot of misperceptions, like you already kind
Mhm,
of mentioned. So I asked specifically what character traits are most valued.
mhm.
And being honest, reliable, and resourceful were the top three traits.
Okay.
Um, which I agree with all of them, and I was happy to see them there. But I
Mm,
honestly had also asked about curiosity, and
okay.
only 31% of respondents put that in their top three. And
So
that was
why do you
surprising.
think why do you think curiosity is so important, but it seems like the managers in your survey didn't think it as important?
Yeah, I think that a curious person is going to ask questions about not only their teammates and their
Mhm,
stakeholders to be able to
mhm.
get to know how they're feeling, what motivates them, what their strengths and weaknesses are, but also processes. Curious people
Yeah.
aren't just people. They're interested in the process. Why did this work? Why didn't this work?
Mhm.
So they're always questioning and looking for how to improve and do better by asking questions, being collaborative. So it is a little bit of being resourceful, but it's beyond that. It's curiosity is definitely a key tenet of high emotional intelligence.
So is EQ, either in your experience or your research, is it something that it's kind of set in stone and you have your EQ and that's it? Or is it something that you can actually like improve upon?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Always can improve upon it. Always. And you
How?
can, and if you're not working on it, you can also backslide on it. So I want to be clear. It's not a
Okay.
one and
It could go
done.
both ways. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can go both. You always have to be working on it. It is,
Mm,
yeah. I definitely have three tips that I like to share with people who are trying
okay.
to improve their EQ. The first one is take one of the traits that you want to work on. You could start with where the survey findings, being honest, resourceful, curious.
Hmm.
Um, Pick one of those and take 3 months and really focus on it for yourself.
Hmm.
Think about before sending out project status reports, before scheduling meetings. Um, think about, is this what a resourceful person would do?
Hmm.
Am I demonstrating my resourcefulness in this communication? For every action that you're about to take a moment and ask yourself, is this what resourceful, assuming you pick resourceful,
Yeah.
looks
Hmm.
like? And the second one, I believe in setting guardrails to protect your decision making based
Okay.
on emotions. So,
Hmm.
for example, don't make big decisions or answer important emails or send out important presentations when you're hungry, when you're
Oh.
tired,
Hmm.
when you're confused, when you're upset. Just set those guardrails right from the beginning.
Hmm.
um, that can seem obvious, but I promise you, when work is actually, in your face, it can be difficult to maintain those guardrails for yourself, but they're really important.
Oh yeah. It's one of those things you always want to do, but to actually put it into practice is really, really hard,
Yeah,
especially, for someone like a project manager.
exactly. That's exactly it.
Hmm.
Um, my third one, take time and practice evaluating and identifying your own emotions.
Mhm,
And by emotions, I don't mean just happy and sad. I mentioned just a moment ago being hungry, tired, and confused.
mhm,
Those can be states of being, but they are emotions as well, and that they're included in having high emotional intelligence.
mhm,
Confusion drives so many miscommunications. It's
mhm,
not so
totally.
much anger or happiness. So take time to help like identify in yourself and maybe your loved ones who you like to practice on.
Mhm,
um, just
for
being able
better
to
or worse.
identify for better or worse. Yeah,
Yeah,
let them know that you're working
yeah,
on it. I
mhm,
believe in being transparent and forthcoming as you're trying to improve yourself.
mhm. Yeah, those are great tips. So obviously at Capterra, we focus a lot on technology, and technology these days is becoming so important for team communication. especially with the growth of remote work, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for how managers can leverage technology to kind of, facilitate their EQ and engage their teams?
Absolutely. So I'm a huge proponent of using asynchronous communication. I think with our
Hmm.
global pandemic, a lot more businesses are seeing the value and seeing that it's not this scary thing.
Uh-huh.
And I would like to see that continued. So, with your own teams, with your project teams, your direct reports within your business, I definitely encourage and support asynchronous communication.
Hmm.
And it's even better if that communication is captured in your project management tool. There are collaboration and communication features in any work, task, project management software that you have. Encourage your team to be using them to share status updates, share
Hmm.
files, share documents within that. Um,
Hmm.
the tool is always there. It's always on. It's always available. So it's immediately perfect for asynchronous communication. And it also will maintain the integrity of that data so that
Hmm.
you have the historical track record of it and everyone is accessing the same information when they need it.
Yeah, it's sort of a central hub that way nothing falls through the cracks.
Exactly. So even if someone answers an email, you know, 8 hours after you do for any reason, and
Mm.
being a high EQ manager, you realize that it doesn't have to just be because a different time zone. They might have other things going on in their life that the project isn't going to suffer just because you see a
Right.
status update 8 hours later.
Hmm.
The work's not going to suffer if your team is engaged and feeling supportive, um, and they all have the information that they need. So, and that's it. The software makes asynchronous communication feel much more natural.
Yeah, but you bring up an interesting point in that because of software, because of technology, communication is instantaneous. Sort of the urgency to reply right away and keep everyone updated as soon as things happen is so strong. So how do you use EQ as a manager to kind of you talked about guardrails before. It's almost like you're putting up guardrails here, right? Like
That's
you don't need
exactly.
to respond to that message right away. You don't need to like check your alerts 24/7.
Yep. So I recommend before a project kickoff meeting. So typically you'll have a project kickoff meeting.
Hmm.
Before that, I would establish your thresholds for communication expectations
Okay.
and share them with the team during the kickoff. They need to know exactly what the threshold and expectations are. And you must abide by them also. You have to be
Hmm.
the champion of abiding by it. So you can
Hmm.
let your team know, hey, you might see a Slack notification. You might receive an email after hours. You have absolutely no expectation to respond. You have 24 hours to respond to an email, or you have 48 hours for an email.
Hmm.
Be very clear with what the expectation is and follow it yourself. And that's your point exactly. Is it setting your own guardrails initially can be easy, but following it 2-3 weeks down the road when stuff is, confusing
Hmm.
and you're exhausted
Hmm.
and you have all other kinds of tasks coming at you is tough. But yeah, set the guardrails for yourself and the team and be clear and transparent about it from the beginning.
Yeah, it's so that communication that comes from the top, it really like sets the example. Well,
Yeah.
this is really cool. Like, I really love this research that you're doing, Olivia, and I really appreciate you coming on to share with us today.
Thank you. I love being here, love the opportunity to share insights and yeah, I appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime. Thank you all for tuning in to Thrive. Visit Capterra.com, the leading online resource for business software buyers, where you can read verified reviews, learn how to make the most of your technology, and get the insights your business needs to thrive. Subscribe to the Thrive podcast on your favorite platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.